Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. On Thursday, Poland's Foreign Minister Renata Sikorski delivered his annual foreign policy address, warning of rising Russian threats, shifting U.S. priorities, and the strategic importance of the European Union. He emphasized that Poland cannot rely on a single ally and must balance transatlantic ties with deeper integration in Europe. Today we explore these challenges with Renata Mieńkowska-Norkiene, political scientist at the University of Warsaw. Good to have you back on TVP World. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
So there are a lot of different sections covered. He said a lot in that speech, but I just want to get your main takeaway. What was that most, let's say, enduring message from that speech on Thursday?
Well, first and foremost, that we cannot rely on one source of, let's say, support for our security from the outside, which basically means we cannot rely fully on the United States anymore. We should rather shift towards Europe, but we mustn't obviously only rely on the European Union. We have to diversify our security and safety sources. However, the most important aspect would be focusing on our own military production. And here SAFE, of course, as the instrument, even though it's the European Union's instrument, it should be focused on supporting our own production. Moreover, I think what we should also underline is that Radosław Sikorski really warned us against potential of a conflict with Russia, so of Russia's threat. He mentioned at the very beginning the cyber security and cyber attacks, where Poland is very strong, but these attacks are really enormous. Plus, he underlined what this government has managed to conduct really well, I would say, in this field of security and safety. And he sort of tried to shift the potential responsibility for not signing the law which sort of implements and provides for administrative support to SAFE program on the President of the Republic of Poland. But Sikorski wasn't particularly, I would say, tough, neither on President nor on the opposition. I think that his speech was quite well balanced, and it was addressed not only to the people who support the governing coalition nowadays, but also he tried to convince those who support Confederacja or Law and Justice, in particular young people and those who might be afraid of a potential conflict.
All right. And also, I think for foreign audience is going to be interesting. As you said, this was more of a balanced one. Still, of course, making sure that the strategic interests of Poland are mentioned. That matters also with the United States. How do you think this is going to be interpreted by Washington, what was heard yesterday there in Warsaw?
Well, I think that ambassador of the United States was present at least during a part of Radosław Sikorski's speech, and it seems that there was no potential for any negative comments. So I think that Sikorski quite well addressed the question of a potential instability of the United States as our ally. However, he also underlined that the U.S. is still our main ally, or one of main pillars of our security and safety. So there should be no negative repercussion whatsoever as regards Sikorski's speech. However, I would say that what matters also is what happened next when Radosław Sikorski then presented his answers to certain questions during the press conference. He put the flags of Poland, of the European Union and of NATO behind his back, while the president of Poland, he actually requested for suppressing the EU's and NATO flags. So I would say that Sikorski also symbolically sent the message that we are not afraid of the United States. We do not put, let's say, a total zero on potential of cooperation with the United States. But we mustn't be, and sorry for the word, but it's a quotation. We mustn't be losers or suckers, as Sikorski put it. So I think the signal was quite well balanced. It was pretty clear, but at the same time, it wasn't insultive towards the United States. It wasn't insulting.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let me ask you a follow-up on that, because you mentioned these different flags. I think he also mentioned that the EU is Poland's strategic shield. At the same time, with those interests of NATO on the one hand, which is on the security parameters, the EU increasingly also looking into security. How does Poland navigate that? Would you discern anything from that speech? I know you said it's balanced, but can Poland weave through that, or is that going to be a complicated journey?
No, it's not going to be that complicated, because I think we are sentenced to that. We are sentenced simply to a stronger cooperation within the EU with the countries that are on the border with Russia or very close to Russia, like with the Baltic states, with the Scandinavian states. This all appeared in the speech of Radosław Sikorski. Unlike V4 and all those delusional cooperations with like Hungary or Slovakia or Czech Republic, where any potential cooperation would be extremely tough. But yes, we are all aware of the fact that the European Union is now the closest to us. It's our closest ally. And indeed, the EU was mentioned by Radosław Sikorski really so many times that it was really a honey to my Europeanistic heart, because it's my main field of interest. And I'm glad, actually, because, in case of any kind of direct threat from Russia, like invasion, I don't know, going from Kaliningrad, any, rocket threat, it's still the EU that would be the most important ally of Poland, because even those 10,000 soldiers in Poland, which came from America, they will not provide us with security and safety fully. So I think that this journey is quite obvious, and I think we have already done a lot to really get, shifted from the United States to the European Union. Even though the US doesn't like the idea of spendings which stay in Poland or go to the European companies instead of to the American companies, but Donald Trump could have thought about that before, and now it's, I would say, a bit too late, unless President Nawrocki will try to maintain Donald Trump's interests and protect the US interests in Poland by vetoing safe law, but I hope he will not do that, although this threat is there, obviously.
All right. Also, something that was mentioned, I'm just curious on your view here. It was very, let's say, limited in its mention, but nevertheless, he also recalled Sikorski recalled the Bucharest Nine format, also something in terms of security, and also made mention to the three C's in terms of also energy. So how do you, let's say, class those kind of frameworks, since Sikorski did mention them, just briefly at the end?
I think he just mentioned it to, let's say, satisfy some of those who delusionally, and this is my point of view, as you see by using this word, believe in those formats. Yeah, they might be useful for very technical and tiny aspects, like, as you mentioned, energy, but also let's not rely on them too much. But I think he doesn't believe in those formats himself. I think there are formats which are way more useful and more important. Although obviously you mentioned Bucharest group. These are countries which understand the Russia's threat in this part of the European Union. And obviously we should stay in very good contacts with those countries and in close cooperation with them. But here we mustn't forget about Scandinavian countries, about also big countries like Germany and France, with whom we should still maintain close relations, like within this group of six. So this is the group of six most important countries in the European Union that cooperate to better understand and better prepare for potential Russian threat. And I think this is the formats we should actually try to maintain, because then those smaller countries would be interested in our leadership more than just by, ourselves saying, oh, we are leaders. It doesn't work that well.
Right, so many things covered there in that foreign policy speech on Thursday. Indeed. Will be watched not just here in Poland, but as we discussed, across key partners. Look, thanks so much for that. Always a pleasure. Renata Mieńkowska-Norkiene, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.